Hi, my name is Ibrahim Naveed, and I am going to be presenting the final project for COMP307 along with my two other team members, Scotty Bauer and Saibzada Turan Mahmood. First, I'd like to talk about the division of work. That was a requirement by the professor in the PDF that he gave. Uh, Basically, this gives you an idea about how Saibzada Turan Mahmood, my team member, worked primarily on backend development. Scotty Bauer worked primarily on front end development. I worked on a bit of both, and I created all the secondary pages. But the general gist of this is that all three of us worked on all components in some way or another. So it was really a collective effort. Next, I would like to talk about the communication. I would like to emphasize how key it was to communicate between us, all the design decisions and the rationale of how to go about this project. Since the three of us don't know each other from before the project, therefore, it was essential that we come up with a platform to communicate about how we're going to go about this project and how we're going to divide the task among each other. So we created an unofficial messenger chat where we basically gave each other deadlines and like basically discussed on when a particular person wanted a particular task to be done so they could work additionally on it. For an example of this would be uh, me working on the site pages, so the new site page, so Turan could configure it with the database. Uh, so yeah, that was communication. It was really important for the success of the project. Next up, I'm going to talk about the general overview or the general uh, description of the website as a whole, the design decisions that we took for the layout of each page, and the running of the server to make sure that it runs for the TA for the general submission of the project. So, I'm sorry, this isn't the homepage. Yeah, this is our homepage, which basically shows you the idea of catching the attention of whoever comes to the website, catching the attention of whoever comes to the website, so that they want to scroll down and they want to look at more information because of the pictures in the slideshow that's going on. We made sure that the slideshow was a combination of the relevant information that the Department of Computer Science has to offer. So it was really an idea of making the homepage as pretty and as catchy as possible. This obviously is the login page, which goes into the backend and asks you for a username and password to change the HTML and the code of the website. Next up, these are the buttons which go to the side pages. We didn't create all of them. We created just some of them. Sorry, we just created some of them. All of the pages under perspective are included, which are our own pages. I'll just give you a tour of these side pages to show you how we modified it. So if you look at the side pages for, like, let's just compare the general info thing. So when you go there, it's just text and a table, and it basically gives you all the information that's been given over here. But as you can see, the difference is the image that comes under the nav bar, the search bar, the login bar, which is present over there, but it's quite bland because it's just a solid color. So we decided to make the nav bar transparent for all of the side pages and include a picture which is relevant to that particular side page. The rest of the information is like almost the same. The footer is also common throughout the web page to maintain consistency. And all of these are basically the side pages which are relevant to the particular site page that we're talking about. Some of the changes that we made was, for instance, like there was a design decision in making the page for areas. What this page has to show is, though this looks attractive, but we felt that a particular area isn't being emphasized enough. Like two of the areas are on one line. So what we did was we basically gave them enough like emphasis on what that particular thing is and made it highlight or basically give more importance to it so the user actually knows what that particular thing is about. we actually wanted to add more information about these areas, but there wasn't enough on the website, so we just decided to give a general idea of this. The connection with the backend was the news site page, which basically is connected to the database and gives you all the relevant information from the backend. And it's obviously synchronized with the date. And the rest of these are just like connections to the original website, because we created 10 to 12 site pages and we didn't want to include all of them as it wasn't required. An additional difference that we had was that, as you can see in Miguel's original website, there's no home button in the side pages. And what a new user wouldn't realize is that to go back to the home page, you actually have to just click the Miguel logo. Well, we thought that this actually might be ambiguous, and we just decided to add a home button to the nav bar. And basically, this is inside every side page, and you can just go back to the home page. Yeah. So actually, just lastly, I just want to show you the home page as a whole, and show you that you could go to learn more and go to that particular page and look at the research opportunities and all that. These are the postings. This is also connected to the backend where you can go to the news thing. And if you click this, you basically go to the news page that we've created, because it gives you all the updates. And yeah, so that's about it. Next, what I would like to talk about is running the server. This was something that was quite tricky for us because we didn't know how to do it with Django. But what we did was we ran this particular command, which I'm not going to run because I've already done that. And that's how we have the server running for an indefinite period of time so that the TA can create it. And so, yeah, that's basically it. I'm going to pass it on to Scotty, who's going to discuss more about the stack and the front end development. And yeah, over to you, Scotty.
Hello, my name is Scotty Bauer. My primary focus on this project was the front end. I was responsible for the design and the layout of the homepage, as well as a lot of the responsive elements and the navigation bar and the search bar that you'll find on the homepage, as well as all the subpages. So I'm just going to take a bit and talk about what I used, why I used it, some things I found helpful, and some things that I ran into trouble with, and things I would do differently if I were to do it over again. So in terms of design, the one thing I noticed when I was looking at the current McGill Computer Science website was that the homepage is a little bit cluttered with links. It's a little bit confusing. I can actually pull it up here. So I wanted to change how there was a set of links on the right-hand side as well as the bottom right and the bottom left. I kind of wanted to go for something a little bit more simple and aesthetic over having all the information right when you come to the homepage. So we left a lot of these links to either subpages or drop-downs instead of having a bunch on the first page. So I can pull up the homepage here. So the first thing you'll notice is this big carousel here. This was done using Bootstrap. They have a very helpful carousel library. Makes it fairly easy to implement, as well as add as many slides as you wanted to. You'll also notice that the search bar is here on the right side. So the search bar, we just have redirect to Google right now. But if I had to go back, I would think that I would rather that traverse the database. It was just a little bit tough to do so when some of our links connect back to the original website and then some of them are subpages, so we just left it as connecting to Google. And in terms of responsiveness, I used a variety of different things. The things that I found the most helpful were jQuery and some HTML DOM things like event listeners and media queries. So one of the event listeners, I'll just give an example, is you'll notice this search bar here. When I resize the screen a little bit, it moves down, just close those, moves down into the bottom of the navigation bar instead of staying up here and being extra tiny on the top right. So that's just one example. I also have this little hamburger button here to open and close the navigation bar. I thought that would be really helpful on mobile, especially because you wouldn't want this glaring thing to be taking up most of the picture of the background, which is what I wanted to be the main focus of originally loading the homepage. Scroll down a little bit, you'll see I kept the postings. I thought this was an important thing to keep from the homepage that's currently on the McGill website, and the news and events as well, in a very similar footer. Kept the red and black theme. Another thing that was very helpful was some of the responsive design techniques we learned from that one assignment, such as font clamping, which you can see the Department of Computer Science title up there, shrinking when I resize the screen. Things like that were very helpful, as well as there are a few different grids on the different divs that are on this homepage, also making it responsive fairly easy. So in terms of what worked well, like I said before, jQuery was very helpful. The event listeners were big, and Bootstrap especially for a lot of the design and a lot of the animations as well. What didn't work well? For me, one of the things that didn't work well was that I designed the homepage prior to us deciding what we wanted to do with the subpages. So once we added a lot of the drop downs and added some links, I had to go back into what I had already made and make sure that the responsiveness still worked. And I just think it would have been a little bit simpler if we, as a group, kind of like made a layout of all the subpages and like really planned it out before we just started going at it. But that's not something we could have known beforehand. It's just a good thing to keep in mind for future reference, at least for me. Yeah, I think that's it. I'll pass it on to my next group member so they can speak. Thank you.
Hi. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about the backend stack because that's what I configured and worked mainly on the Django framework and the SQL database. So the reason that we opted for using Django and SQL was mainly because it was a Python-based framework. And so some of the pros that actually come along with that is the scalability, the fact that we have abundant resources, and we all had some basic familiarity with Python. So we knew that once we were going to push this, our local project to the server, Django actually makes it quite easy to scale a lot of the project. So whenever we wanted to add more HTML or CSS or any of these sort of pages, then we knew that just adding a couple of more app roots and configuring a lot of that with our existing project was actually going to be quite seamless. So that was good. That proved to be quite helpful. And as we mentioned, we all had a bit of familiarity with Python and some basic grasp of SQL, which made it so we didn't actually have to keep using something like MongoDB or anything like that. Next, I'm going to talk a bit about what didn't work well, since it pertained more to the backend than the front end. So yeah, like using Django, it does give you a lot out of the box, but it was still a bit overcomplicated, we thought, for what we were trying to do. A lot of the time, it was sort of the directory structure was a bit messy and confusing in the sense that certain directories had to actually have the same name as its child directories. And that kind of proved to be confusing when trying to communicate as a team. And Django makes it so it's mandatory to do that for multiple directories. It's not just, here and there, but you have to do that for quite a few of them. We thought that was a bit confusing, although it does have some benefits, but it's a bit overcomplicated. And beyond that, configuring the SQL database on the server actually took much longer than expected. And in the end, we had to basically change some of the Django source code to fix that and to get it working. And that was quite a hassle because, the whole point of using a framework like Django is to have less abstraction, have more abstraction and not have to worry about a lot of the specifics of how it works and how the features work in the source code. But, to fix it, we had to modify a bit of the source code from reading online, and that proved to be a bit of a challenge. But next, I'll go ahead and just show you where exactly the database has been utilized on our homepage. So first, we can see that there's postings at McGill Computer Science. These are the most recent postings in our database that we just make calls to the database and it gets updated right here. Similarly, you can see more news and events over here. So the next 6 items that are the most recent and most relevant, those are what are displayed here. And if you want to look more into the news, then you can, at older posts, for instance, you can go ahead and click it and find out more. And so this takes us to the news HTML page, essentially, where it just all the stored posts in our database are placed over here, as you can see. These are all the archived posts in order of how recent they are. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the database, for the news part of the database. Next, I can go ahead and show the admin panel, the login page. As you can see, we have the site admin panel with groups and users and posts. These are all what we utilized, and it's convenient because if we go into users, then we can create and update and delete users. We can control all that, and we can dynamically change what we did on the HTML of the website. So this is a pretty useful feature that Django actually gave us. And we can see here that this is listed as a standout technology because the admin panel was probably what helped us the most in making everything dynamic. And I think that's going to be it for me. Thank you, and I'll give it to Ibrahim.